Gents, it's good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Here we are.
Yeah. Sam, I'm telling
What's
you,
up, dude?
I know that it's becoming a meme, but your studio, it is getting better every time. You have to, like, how could we not say it, you know?
Trying to, just elevate the game. We got some fun stuff.
What's your favorite edition?
My favorite edition is probably, it's different from the one we talked about earlier. So this right up here is actually a flag that was on a sailboat that my grandpa and my brother and I went on a 2-week sailing trip when I was 16 years old. And so that was a flag
awesome.
that was at the very top of the mast of the sailboat. And so for 2 weeks, it just kind of went around with us. So actually, before my grandpa passed away, I've got that. And then in front of me, which you guys can't see, is like probably a 3-foot by 5-foot Iowa flag that we all signed. So like my grandpa signed it, TJ signed it, myself signed it, and then our captain signed it. So that sits up here. It's a big flag of Iowa. So it's just fun to deck out a space with all sorts of fun stuff.
I'm so nostalgic. Like, I love that space because you just get the chance to put the things up that you don't always have a space for, No, right. Are you going to get a sweet studio by the end of all this?
I was muted, but I said one day.
Yeah, one day.
I need to get this. Yep, I really do. It's embarrassing. I just have this ugly little light.
You're just like super simple. It's okay, man. You're like, I'm this actually truly out of the three of us, I am typically the most extra. So this actually fits our personalities pretty well. So
I love that about you though, Sam. I was actually thinking about the Cavs game we all went to recently.
Yeah.
I loved the whole time you were like, dude, it's like, just tell me that I look.
Yeah.
Tell
my
me
goal is
to
to look like a famous person.
You look cool.
We're sitting in like
you
the
have
third
a little
row.
one at home.
I do.
That's
we
crazy.
have a baby, and it's a good life, man. It's been fun. I've been shocked. I've been shocked at how I'm not as tired as I thought I'd be. So I think the key here is that I have decided I'll never look at how many hours of sleep I got. I'll just basically judge the situation based off how I feel, and if I feel good, I just keep going. And if I don't feel that good, I'll take a 15-minute nap. So I feel amazing. I feel actually pretty energized and rested. I think,
nice.
I've been really surprised by that front. So,
little baby girl, it just softened you. That's what happened.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's a different life right now. So it's awesome.
And then you'll blink and you just got to keep people alive. Like I got home from work today and it was freaking just the worst. We were gone out of town for the weekend for the 4th of July. And our neighbors decided to shoot off fireworks. And this is like the part of living in the suburbs I actually freaking hate. So I got home and there was pieces of fireworks all over my yard and on my driveway.
The shrapnel.
And so anyway, I get home and I'm trying to set up this. I got a punching bag that's freestanding that I was assembling. And Whitney goes, Sam. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And Nora had put a piece of the firework in her mouth and it disintegrated in her mouth. And then she had it's just been stuff, a ton of stuff with her. Yesterday we had to take her to the urgent care because she had an infected finger. Man. And then tonight she pooped in the tub and then Whitney looked at her and she had a piece of shit in her mouth. And I was like, gosh, this is the freaking worst. And then meanwhile, my 2 boys are trying to kill each other in the basement. So it's just at a certain point, it just becomes chaos and it's 9:30 PM and you're like, what in the world? So
seasons of life, man.
Just hold on to the good stuff while you got it, Noah. Having one baby is the best.
We've done 2 unexpected medical runs in the last week. So none of them were, and it's all just fear with your first kid. You think everything's wrong. But I will say the second one, I thought we were fine. And then the nurse on call, the pediatrician on call when we called, was like, you guys need to go in right now. Because they thought that she wasn't getting enough food. And then because of she just falls asleep 5 minutes into breastfeeding. Yeah. And so they thought she wasn't getting enough food. We got there. A good friend of ours who we all know ended up being the ER on call, or the person in the ER. And she was like, your daughter's 100% fine. She's great.
That's great.
She weighs more than she did when she was born already. So you're all fine.
Yeah.
So it's just the fun the fear things, but we're getting over those things. And
it is the worst.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. That stuff that always happens with kids. I feel cause you just again, you're I want to make sure, I would rather be overly overly certain than under certain, for sure.
And that's where Whitney balances me out, because I'm like, oh, she ate a firecracker. Should we take her somewhere? She's probably fine. Yeah, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yep, it's give and take. It's give and take for sure. Well, it's good to be back. This is coming. Yeah, so we're recording a little bit before we release it, just inside of 2 weeks. But 4th of July was just had. We're in the middle of the World Cup. We got a lot of things going on, kind of like in the world. But we wanted to spend the episode today reflecting a little bit about some of the saddest news, I think, for us as Catholics, which is that the church is in schism. And that has not been a formal reality much in our lifetimes. And just the church being in schism and excommunications happening and just different realities of disunity and a lot of feedback on both sides and people wrestling with like, what does this mean? And we figured that we would give it a shake. So to kind of like lay the groundwork, I guess, the Society of Saint Pius X is formally in schism from the church. They ordained illicitly 4 bishops in Europe, and yeah, there's just a lot of thoughts that I know that I've had on it, and I'm sure you guys do too. And I know that we were texting back and forth and thinking that this would be a good angle to go. So we'll lay the groundwork there, and I'll let you guys kind of jump in, give like immediate thoughts or like, when you heard about it or what you've been reflecting on since the news broke.
Yeah. I mean, I it is sad. I mean, I think to me, it's more of kind of like, gosh, I mean, I probably haven't meditated on the like, metaphysical reality of what excommunication means. Like, you are cut off from the church, her grace, and from God. Like, you're basically like going to hell. Like, this is what this means. If you persist in the matter, you are completely separated from salvation, which is crazy. So I haven't yet like totally grasped that, but I think just kind of thinking about the whole situation, it's just, I guess what I've been thinking about more so is the reality of like how this came about. Like it's the fact that like, 1962 to 1965 is the Vatican Council, right? Things happen. It's a time of reformation, and oftentimes in times of reformation, things get misunderstood. Things are getting teased out. I mean, you and the 3 of us have all been a part of moments of like reform. Like, we both served the same organization that is in like its 15th iteration, right? Damascus, now in 2026 is much, much different from Catholic Youth Summer Camp in 2001, which blessed be God that it is, right? And you think about it, it's much different than it was in 2016 when the 3 of us really kind of were knee deep in the midst of the kind of the founding of the camp, and you guys specifically on the front of that. Things go through reform. It's healthy to go through reform, but it's when that fine line teeters between reform and revolt. Like, that's what I've kind of been like thinking about, is like the fact that like from 1962 to 1965, Vatican II is going on. And then after that, they're trying to figure this whole thing out. And there's, this kind of like the founder, if you will, of SSPX, Cardinal Marcel Lefebvre, if I said his name correctly. He's kind of this, what'd you say? Lefebvre?
That's what they say. Archbishop Lefebvre, right?
Okay,
Lefebvre.
cool. Yeah, Lefebvre. Yeah. I'm not French, but that sounds right. But there's this, this reality that he's kind of like in opposition, but he, even in the early stages, he's not calling for revolt. He's calling for like reform. Like, what is, the Holy Spirit wanting here? And to the point where it's like he even signs his name on like the final documents of Vatican II, like to the point where he is not necessarily calling for a revolution. Like, he's not calling for schism. And even like at the heart of SSPX, like, this is where I can kind of empathize. I try to empathize a little bit, is like, even at the heart of their motto, if you will, it's like, recognize but resist, right? They recognize that Pope Leo is the Roman pontiff. They recognize that he has legitimate authority. It's just they believe that the Novus Ordo is a bunch of BS. And so it's like, the fact that there's kind of this truly like standing in this, they don't believe it's disobedience, but living in this place of disobedience, even at the point of schism, which becomes revolt, it just becomes craziness from there. I mean, I'll put a timer here on myself for just like a minute to a minute and a half more of my take. It's wild because I sat with my cousin's new husband this past weekend at the 4th of July, and he's incredible. He listens to the show. Ethan, shout out to you. He's an incredible young guy. I mean, he loves Jesus, loves the Lord, and he has never heard most of the teachings of the Catholic Church. Like he's just kind of heard like what did Catholics teach? Like he doesn't know anything about the Pope or Mary or the Eucharist. He didn't really think like anything evil about it, just was kind of like curious. And so I was the first kind of person to sit down and talk to him about the Pope and talk to him about the Eucharist. And we're going to continue the conversation. I'm excited for it, Ethan. But there's the reality that that one of the things I talked to him about that he was kind of like, whoa, is that Martin Luther didn't mean to start a revolution. He didn't mean to start an entirely different church. He meant it. He started with reform. And then, but the moment that reform became revolt, chaos ensues. I mean, you think about this, it's like, SSPX happens, right? So there's like this schism and it's gone in and out of schism, right? So like, there was, I think it was like around 1988, up until 1988, they were kind of in schism. And then John Paul II is the one who kind of begins to really have good conversations with them. And then things kind of go crazy after, Benedict XVI kind of investigates a little further. But there's this once it turns into revolt, chaos just ensues. It goes from like SSPX to then the Sedevacantists who just believe, not even to recognize that there is a pope. There's no pope. There's like been no valid pope since like 1962 or whatever. Like some of them believe John the 23rd was the last legitimate pope. But then it gets to even crazier. It's like it gets to the point where there's a guy named Pope Michael who lives in Kansas, who's just a lay guy, who him and his like family members elect him pope. It's like, wait, what? Like this all stems from like revolt. Like that's where to me, I'm kind of like this. To me, I'm like SSPX. I'm not like, no disrespect to anybody who's listening, maybe that is SSPX, but I'm like, you guys just like, you're on the level of Mormons a little bit to me. Like this starts to feel like Joseph Smith, and like we are like, Jack, can you play that video? Like this might be the time where I want to play the video. This is crazy. Like this is just crazy to see like the frame of reference.
Of course, today we see such wreckage. If the Catholic Church in her tradition brings forth life, the modernist church is a desert. It kills. It kills everything that it touches. It kills the supernatural life. It kills the sources of grace. It dries up everything because it has placed man in the place of God and therefore turned away from the sources of life. So this is a reminder today to be faithful to the sacred entrustment which our Lord has given to his church and continues down through the apostolic tradition.
Yeah. So
I heard many times, in fact,
we'll pause
leading
there,
up
Jack.
to the consecration.
Okay, so that
it's a crazy statement. No, go ahead, Sam.
No, it is. Let's go into that. It's just like, can you get to me the Mormon vibes? It's like okay, there's 800 people in a field with a guy who just was ordained a bishop, and he's saying that the whole Roman Catholic Church is like, you guys are evil. You're just causing death. It's like, this sounds crazy because it is.
A desert, like like separated from the life of grace. Like that is such a bold state. Like I don't know, maybe he recognizes that, And I'll let you jump in.
No, I mean that's pause button on what I was going to say. That's the rest of it. Let's just start there. But that's where I'm at. Is like when reform becomes revolution, chaos ensues. It's just wild.
No, it's crazy. I think the funny thing is that I love that you shared that, Sam, just because I have been reading some of the quotes and then watching a lot of the interviews. Like I've spent a ton of time watching a ton of interviews on people who were there in the crowd and like what their thoughts were. And I was just blown away because the only thing I can take from this, and I would tend to maybe be the most traditional out of the three of us per se. I don't know. Sam and I might rival each other. We're definitely more traditional than Brad, but
super traditional, dude. I'm having 12 kids. No,
but that's like, I've been watching a ton of these interviews and I've been blown away because I'm like, this, when I watch it, all that I think of is like, if I were to turn on Protestant rebuttals of the faith, or like that's what it feels crazy to me. Like, and I think the funny thing is I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of influencers online, who tend to lean more traditional, that are like extending a lot of mercy and grace towards SPX, which to SSPX, which is fine, because I do understand some of the confusion. I think we can get into that a little bit later. But at the same time, like, there needs to be some things that are legitimately acknowledged. Like the fact that like the superior general bishop, he said this, I have the quote here. He literally said these words, Bishop Bernard Fillet. He said, "It is sad to acknowledge, but it is a fact that in an ordinary parish, the faithful no longer find the means necessary to ensure their eternal salvation." So like he said that. That is like a crazy thing to say. And then he goes on and he says another thing, and he says, the Novus Ordo Missae, whatever it is, will no longer in and of itself guarantee that the celebrant has the intention. That will depend on his personal faith. Therefore, those masses can be of doubtful validity, and more so with time. So like they just to like actually read that, and like, I get the mercy that's being had, because again, I do think there's legitimate confusion, like I said, that we can get into later. But like that, those quotes are really important to say that somebody else is saying. And that in and of itself, it's like, how do you not call that Protestantism? How do you not call that literally, like, how do you not look at that and say, okay, you have decided, you've made a decision that this is what you now believe, and that trumps what Peter has said, right? What the Pope has said. And that's just like a decision you're making. And you've made, like, believe me, you've made a great argument. I've read through the arguments, and there is a good argument to be had. And like Mark Driscoll has a great argument. And gosh, I don't know, all the John Piper and all these guys have great
Gavin Ortlund.
Yeah, Gavin Ortlund, great stories as to why Protestantism is right and Rome is wrong. But to me, I look at it and I'm like, how are we looking at this in any different way? I agree. I'm the first to admit that the church has done a lot of wrong, and maybe like it isn't correcting in the way that in certain areas that they should correct, and they've come down pretty hard in this area. I will agree with that 100%. But what the other areas aren't saying is that they are starting their own church, that they're basically ordaining their own bishops because they legitimately don't believe that Rome is like he said. He legitimately said that that the faithful no longer find the necessary means to ensure their salvation in an ordinary parish. Like that's the belief. Therefore, we're going to ordain our own bishops, and we're not even going to. They're playing victim big time. Like if you do a lot of the research, they're acting like they're like we really want to be in line with Rome, and we love Rome, and we love the church. But it's like, Sam, if you and I were talking, and I'm like, Sam, I don't like George Bush. And I think we should go after a different leader. And you're like, no, this is a bad example. Whatever. It's Sam and I. I just want to make a joke about George.
It's because J-Dub. We'll talk about J-Dubs later.
But it's like Sam's like, what the example essentially, like, we adamantly disagree about something, but I'm saying I love Sam, but I'm like, Sam, I'm not going to come on board with you on this, but Sam's my boss. It's as simple as that. It's like I have made a decision that I'm going to go against you, but I'm going to use the word saying I love you, and I'm trying everything to correct our relationship. But then Sam's really actually putting out opportunities to correct our relationship, and I'm saying, Sam, I love you, I love everything you're doing, but if it's not going to look the way I want it to look, then I just I have to do it my own way. But I still love you, and I'm still like in line with you, and I'm still the victim, but I have to do it my own way. And I'm like, it's just so unhealthy, and it is Protestantism to me, at least.
Yep. Yeah, I see a lot of the things that you guys are saying. My initial take when I heard about SSPX, like moving forward with the consecration of these bishops, the first thought I had was, we have totally lost our value of authority in the world. Like we don't value authority anymore at all. Like when on either side, and I want to talk a little bit about horseshoe theory, where if you go so far to the left and so far to the right, you actually end up in the same place. So someone that goes like a hyper Protestant route and has problems with the church, they end up in the same place as the people who pushed super right, saying they were the most conservative part of the church. They actually end up in the same place because they're pushing out from the middle. And the reason that the middle matters is because that's the place where we have harmony and unity. The four marks of the church: one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. Like we're supposed to be in the middle with one another, but we've lost. I think this is really true in America. I would presume that it's true in Europe too, based on what I'm reading about SSPX, but it's definitely true in America. And it's this, that the more conservative types, of which we would all find ourselves in some way, we just doubt all authority. So like any authority that doesn't say something that I completely agree with, I don't get behind. But imagine if we bring that all the way down to the subsidiary level, right? So let's just say that in your house, your kids just decide I'm totally down to abide by the authority of mom and dad until they say something I don't want to adhere to. Right? Let's move it out from there and let's just go to like, I live in a homeowners association. Let's just say that like, yeah, I'm totally down with the HOA until they tell me something to do that I don't want to do. Like, or let's move it even out from there. You have your local government or your parish, your parish priest. Like you can keep moving it out. But I just think that we've lost fundamentally something that's really important. And that's what really pulled my heart, is this hyper individualization, like I am my own arbiter of truth, is not at the heart of the church. At the heart of the church is that we are better together in unity in the middle. And there's going to be a wide enough tent that a lot of things can fit in there. And there's some things that cannot fit in there. And when the church speaks that something cannot fit in there, she speaks authoritatively that it can't fit in there. And that's where like my participation in her, I yield to that even when it's not my preference. Just in the same way that Eliza sometimes has to yield to dad even when it's not her preference, because I'm the authority there. And it's just crazy to me that most of the people we would talk to of the hyper conservative tilt, they would totally agree with that on the home front, right? At the subsidiary level, they'd even push that out. I don't know how far they push it out, to be completely honest, but they definitely agree about it at the home level. And so I'm just curious what you guys think about that, because I also know that's my tilt, is I'm a unity guy. Like I tend to look at, I'm always kind of like fighting for the middle, fighting for nuance. I actually said that the day after, whenever we were just kind of in our normal posting streak, and follow us too. We're on Instagram. And just trying to like process it through. Like, I think the fight for our time is a fight for the middle. And I think what's happened is the people that push really far left, they say that the narrow path that leads to life is with us. And the people that push really far to the right say the narrow path that leads to life is with us. When I honestly think what the church has always taught is that the narrow path exists in the middle. It goes between two mountains and it leads straight to the Lord. And it's going to chisel at us a little bit in our natural proclivities. It's going to chisel at our temperaments. It's going to force us to reconcile. Like, how many times have each of us, like here on this podcast, reconciled with one another? A ton. I can name multiple phone calls with each of you where we just wrestle out like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, but it doesn't have us go, like, if you don't change this right now, we're out of relationship. I guess you can probably pick up what I'm putting down. I would say that was my initial reaction was, what do we have when it comes to authority anymore at all? We have people like, and again, we don't have to get into the conspiratorial realities, but it's just like any narrative that's given authoritatively, everyone doubts universally. That breaks down the church. The church will be no more if we fall to that, because the church relies on the unity that comes from a properly ordered hierarchy. And we believe Jesus established that. And I'm not saying that directly correlates with governmental realities, but there is some overlay there. I'll throw it to you guys. That's my initial take.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think there's there's so many things here, but two of the things that really come to mind is I think a lot of it, first and foremost, I think a lot of this comes down to the breakdown of the family. I really believe that, because I think this is like a pet peeve of mine, how all of these like Protestant churches or even Catholic like communities are always like, we're family here, or like, this is family, and they're always using these words like, our DNA is family first. And I'm like, it's just factually the opposite of family. Is it good? Is it community? Yes. Is it needed? Yes. Is fellowship very important? Yes. But family is a very specific thing. It's biological, and it's where you have to be. You are born from these people, and you have to obey them for a period of your life. You recognize, like, it's the whole Patrick by David thing, right? When you grow up, you idolize your parents. Then you go through a season kind of once you leave the house where you demonize your parents. And then you go through a period after that when you get older and you become a parent a lot of times where you humanize your parents, right? And it's kind of this same thing of like we in life, what family is all about is the fact that we grew up in a house where we were obedient to imperfect humans. And but it doesn't change the fact that a lot of the principles they taught us were actually like really freaking good. And so we hear these principles, but then because we saw that they were flawed individuals, what a lot of young people are doing right now, like post high school, college, young adult, is they are kind of like fleeing their families to go find communities that agree with them in the way they do things that haven't hurt them yet because their parents hurt them and they need to separate themselves from their parents or their siblings. But then they go find a community that hasn't hurt them and has all the ideals they agree with, and then they call that family. And I think in the church, like it's so dangerous because the church is doing the same thing. It's like we're calling our church, our community, or our organization that we're part of family, when really all we're doing is saying, hey, you haven't hurt me yet, and I agree with you because we all have the same thing in common that we agree with. That's the opposite of family. Family is literally these are the people that you were born from. They have authority over you. They grew you into who you are now. They were flawed, but their principles still stood strong, and you stay in there with them even amidst their flaws. And because we've lost the sense of that, because of globalization, we're not even around our families a lot of times anymore. Because of this culture that we have lost the art of being able to actually sit and be with flawed individuals who do flawed things, who have actually really good principles, and stay with them in it. And so, what's going on right now in the church? Oh, we disagree because this person at the council was behind closed doors doing this and this conspiracy over here, and we only have this amount of information because of YouTube and AI, and there's all these little conspiracies, and I have the hidden truth, and therefore I'm going to go side with the people who have the hidden truth, and this is the church, and you're no longer the church, and you can't tell me what to do because you were flawed and you hurt me, but this group won't hurt me, and they're doing it the right way. And it's like that is I'll get to the second thing later because I kind of went off on that, but I think that's one of the biggest abuses here. Is I think a big cause of this is the fact that we've lost what family truly is, what biological family is, and because the heart of the church is the heart of the family, you how are we going to have a healthy, beautiful church that respects the authority and follows the authority of the church when we have kids growing up in a culture that aren't doing that themselves?
No, you're right on it. It's definitely a pervasive perspective throughout the world that's definitely reflected itself in kind of the whole SSPX thing, right? There's this unwillingness to submit to the authority, right? And I think just if I'm listening to both you guys, it's like there is a authority. Like, do we believe there's an authority? There's an authority, right? Whether you're talking family in the midst of a home, mom and dad are the authority. Like there is a legitimate authority. There's objective truth. And like my friends and involved in SSPX, like my friends, there is a truth, and that truth is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ in Matthew 16 said, Peter, I give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. The gates of the nether world will never prevail against it. That was not something that comes down to like, oh, when something happens that we don't agree with, or we don't think it should be done in this way, then we're just going to be disobedient, right? And I think that to your point earlier, Noah, it's like there is a point at which when family just becomes this kind of thing you tolerate, or I mean, it's in the air we breathe. It's every talk. I mean, Whitney and I were talking the other day of how literally every Disney movie, I enjoy Disney movies. They're fun to watch with our kids, but it's like literally every Disney movie is the exact same. It's a rebel against the parent, right? There's this thing that happened in the 80s and the 90s of like a rebellion against mom and dad. They don't know what's best for me. They're the authoritative figure in my life. I'm going to do what's best for me. And then obviously things don't usually work out, and there's this reconciliation, but there's a lack of humility and a lack of surrender that there's someone actually leading leading the story of salvation, and that person's name is Jesus, and he entrusted the church to an office, and that office is the papacy. And like I don't know, I think that's, to me, and this is where I think like people could say, Sam, you're just too simple. But Brad, I mean, just to echo what you said earlier, like I can have beef with the church, and I don't even know if beef's the right word. I can struggle in different seasons of my life, right? Like, I think there are men, um, and women that I know where it's like, you know, especially just because it's the thing that I do with like Forge right now of working with families. It's like, or with men specifically, a lot of our leads, we ask the questions of like, are you trying to thrive? Are you thriving in your role as father and husband? Are you apostolic in your mindset toward the mission of the church? And then the last one is orthodox. Are you obedient to everything the church teaches, regardless of exception? There's different pain points there, right? Specifically within the realm of sexuality and family life. I mean, particularly around the concept of like NFP and contraception. It's like I mean, people who don't struggle with fertility and like babies just come and you can't sometimes figure out the NFP thing. Like that can be a real tension point for people. It's like, gosh dang it, like all I want to do is just like not have to have another child. And it's like, okay, well, this is what the church says, and this is what I'm going to submit my authority to, and I'm going to surrender my life and approach my life in humility. It's like I don't know, I don't know what this thing is in my life or why I'm struggling toward it, but my attitude is surrender. Or if I'm having doubt toward the Eucharist, it's like, okay, I'm gonna approach this with surrender, faith seeking understanding. That same attitude needs to be taken in this situation. That's why I think it's like to hammer down. It's like I think SSPX is completely in the wrong here. It's like there's complete lack of humility, complete lack of surrender, of like don't recognize and resist, recognize and surrender. Like this is not something about like recognize that Peter is actually living on through the apostolic succession of Pope Leo now, and now resist what he has to say because he's not coming into alignment with 1962 to 1965 and rebelling against or rejecting that, the spirit of Vatican II, and going back to the 1950s. This is the Holy Spirit who has always been and always will be the principal agent of evangelization. The church is ever ancient and it's ever new. He is always doing a new thing. And so when we can just rest assured that Papa has his children, and it's like I don't have to worry about it too much. And maybe people can call me a simpleton, but it's like that's what a child does in the house of his parent.
Yeah, I love that. I also think I just reflecting on what both of you are saying. I think there's a good maxim in life, and it's when you feel like you need to be the savior of something, probably don't save it. Now, again, it's not like if your kid is like in danger or something like that. I'm saying more like at this like huge level of society and things. It's like, man, if I wonder if St. Francis, when he was like, I'm going to live exactly like Jesus, his first move was like, you know what? Because I'm going to save the church. No, he was asked to rebuild the church later, but his move was like, I'm just going to give everything to the Lord. His first move was like actually abandonment, not attainment. It wasn't that I discover everything in myself. It was actually, I'm going to rid myself of the things I've been holding on to. And I think that like anytime that we begin finding that it's in us to save something that like has been especially bestowed by the Lord on us, like I'm going to save the way that we do this, or I'm going to save the way we do this. It's like, no, I want to make it better. Of course I do. Like I want to make my family better, right? Like I'm in the midst of my family and I want to engage and I want to do the right thing and I want to help them become all that they were made to be. But like, I think there is a real humility that you're pointing to, Sam, of coming in and saying, I don't have to save this whole thing because God's got it. I don't have to save the country I'm in because like Lord, everything's yours, but I want to make it better because I'm in it. Again, you can't put that maxim all the way down to the base level. I'm realizing that now that I'm saying it out loud, but I do think that there is a spirit of pride that accompanies that impulse of like, I have to save it right now. It's me. It's like, this is our little group that's entrusted with this one thing, especially in the area of the church and in the area of other things, because I'm just convinced that when we look at what God has done over the course of church history, he has done more with less than we have now. He has worked more grace and mercy out of worse seasons in the church. Like you were mentioning this earlier, Noah, is there confusion? Like for sure. Do we have people in the church that don't believe everything that she teaches on both the left and the right? Definitely. Do we have people pushing narratives that I think are antithetical to the gospel, but then calling it Catholic? Totally. But what I am hitching my wagon to is that Jesus Christ established a church, and that church has existed for 2,000 years. And that in that church is the treasure trove of all of what God wanted to reveal to his people through scripture and tradition. And in that, I put utter trust. And to your point, Sam, people will call that being a simpleton, right? Because it's like, oh, you're just blindly following. It's no, I'm not blindly following. I know the man who said the words in Matthew 16, and I know the man who established a church, and I know the man who promised something and has never broken a promise to me ever before. And the thing that he promised is that the netherworld will never prevail against the church. And he didn't even say that it wouldn't prevail in like a hand-to-hand combat. He's like, the gates of hell, like the very backwards defense of the enemy, won't prevail against the church. The church is an offensive, like, affront to what the evil one's trying to do. So the moment we give into schism or division, whether that be in relationship, like I'll close it here. I just think the SSPX reality, it is the story of us. Like the moment I give up on relationship with one of you guys, like how, again, back to the beginning, how many times have we reconciled? Like 1,000. Like the moment that I say, actually, you're completely wrong, and I'm completely right. What I have now done is I have conveniently set up the situation to say, hey, you want to know what's crazy? This situation's off and it's all your fault, which ironically forces you to completely change and me to change nothing. Like, how can you ever be in relation? You can't ever be in relationship. Try that in marriage. Try that in like, that doesn't work. And so that's not going to work in the church. It's never going to work of like, hey, here's my preference in the church. The church should make it a principle for everyone. Because what the church is saying is we have billions of adherents, and we are going to make principle what is principle. And we are going to allow for diversity of expression. Like we are going to state objective things objectively, and we're going to leave subjective things subjective. And the church has always done that. And so anyway, I think there's a ton of thoughts on that, but go ahead.
And it's so funny to me because SSPX, their big thing is that modernism crept into the church, right? So they, in the way they define it, I was just kind of looking it up, is it's a collection of errors that attempts to reinterpret Catholic doctrine according to modern philosophy, personal religious experience, and contemporary culture, rather than accepting divine revelation and the church's perennial teaching as objective and unchanging. And what I've just been laughing at is I'm like,
what's liturgical, ecumenical? Sorry, it's like it's all those things.
Like, what's a more modern thing to do? To hear what's going on and maybe hear that these flawed individuals, there's something going on behind the scenes, but trust in what the most ancient has said, that upon this rock I will build my church, right? Trust in what Jesus said. What's more modern, that? Or, hey, I don't really think that this thing is living up to what it should. I think that it took a turn. Therefore, I will start my own thing. That there's not, and I'm going to bring it back to the principles of what it really was. Like, that is the most modern thing you can do. That's literally how are most small businesses started? Because people work for large corporations. They dislike a certain direction that large corporation took. And they're like, no, the heart of what we were trying to do in the first place was this. Therefore, I'm going to go and I'm going to start my own small business, and I'm going to attract as many people to that small business so that we can get to the heart of that thing. Like, that's the most modern thing you could do. And so I laugh so hard that they're like, modernism has crept into the church. And I'm not even saying I fully disagree with that. I disagree with it in a lot of the way they're saying it. But I'm like, wait, hold on. Who's being modern now? You're basically starting a new small business and attracting a ton of people to it and saying that this is the actual core. Whereas us non-sexy, non-cool people are staying in this like deflating, sinking ship that is the church. Like that's the most modernist thing you could do. And so I just find it so funny they're using.
Can I take a stance on that? Like my thing is, modernism has crept into the church because the church is ever ancient and ever new. Like the church has had modernism happen a ton of times. It's had reforms way before Vatican II. It's had councils throughout its entire history. Do you want to know what like a huge moment in the church was? It was 325 in Nicaea, when they came out with a creed that wasn't the Apostles' Creed. It was the Nicene Creed. Like I think sometimes we're like, oh man, something's crept in that's new. And what happens, I think, is because we really like things being predictable sometimes, especially if our temperament is made in that way, when it becomes a little bit chaotic, we get really nervous and we start thinking it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. And it's like, okay, hold on. let's actually just take the comment you're saying at face value. You are intuition pumping something into what modernism means. So if what you're talking about is the entire concept of modernism, then okay, we can debate if modernism, postmodernism, what the goods and bads of it are, and if the bads outweigh the goods. But if what you're saying in that is there are new expressions, new methods, new means of reaching the faithful that the church has implemented since Vatican II, then you're totally right. And it doesn't diverge at all from congruence over the course of church history, because the church doesn't contradict herself. The church can always expand on itself. You want to know, I actually heard an amazing analogy to this. The analogy was, so in the same way that the church over time, like can reveal, like we learn more about the thing. The English language, you'll think this is really interesting. I'm trying to remember who said it, and Dr. Bergsma from Franciscan University. I thought this analogy was really, really awesome. I heard him on a podcast not too long ago. He said this: there's a book called the Little Blue Truck, and it's funny because the Little Blue Truck, like when we hear that, we're like, oh, that makes sense. But if we would hear the Blue Little Truck, we'd be like, that doesn't sound right. And the reason that doesn't sound right is because in the English language, there actually is a rule that size precedes color. Most people don't know that, okay? And that has not always been defined. But over time, English speakers began realizing, hey, actually, there's a way that we speak English, and size precedes color. So it's the Little Blue Truck, not the Blue Little Truck. What English did not do is add a new rule just out of whole cloth saying, hey, check this out. What happened is over time, because they were English speakers in the same way that we're Catholic in the church experiencing these realities, we begin realizing, oh, actually, no, it's totally in alignment with everything that's the case. Does that make sense? I thought that was a super interesting like reality where you're speaking a language over time. It doesn't make us like better English speakers now. It just makes us more educated English speakers because the people before us spoke English and we spoke it alongside them and figured out things that went around it. Same thing with the Catholic faith. It's not that we're inventing things out of whole cloth. It's that we've been living in Catholicism for so long, and you have Jesus, and I think what he says is Mrs. Jesus. Like you have the church, and over time, the church learns more about her spouse. I thought it was a really cool analogy. All I'm saying that for is to kind of bring this back to your point, Noah, is they are making their entire stance on modernism has crept into the church. I understand if we define modernism in one way, that's a really, really bad thing. But if what we're saying is there are new means and expressions and methods, there is definitely that since Vatican II. And I would say that's a good thing because the Holy Spirit breathed upon that and the vast majority of bishops signed off on it at a council.
Yeah, it's the acorn and the oak tree. It's the like you see.
Expand on that.
Well, yeah, you see an acorn and you would never say, wow, like if you saw an acorn and you didn't know what an oak tree was, you would never say, oh, wow, that's going to turn into some, or let's say you saw both of them. You would never look at the acorn and say, wow, that is an oak tree. But as over time, the acorn is into the ground and it grows into this massive oak tree. And you could see how, okay, I can connect the dots since I've seen the whole path throughout history and throughout it growing. I think that's what the church is. I heard that on a different podcast, but it's the church is constantly revealing more of herself. And that's what we're seeing, and it's true, and if who are you going to trust if you don't trust the Pope, right? Like who are you going to trust? And in that case, yeah, I would just be Protestant if I didn't trust the Pope.
Yeah, it's a curious thing because I can see, this is where I can start to like empathize a little bit because I'm personally, I guess, like kind of that idea that I've been going with this conversation of reform is actually like a very beautiful and necessary thing, right? Like think about, we've been kind of using these relational terms around of like even kind of using husband and wife, right? Like reform is a necessary and important part of marriage, even that the part of like two people becoming one, you grow together, you do life together, seasons change, seasons differ. You have to, at different points in order to have health within a marriage, you have to be willing to say, okay, this part of our life needs to shift or mold or change. That's reform, right? There's a healthy place for that. But revolution is a tragedy. Like that's truly like when you say like unless you do this, I'm out. Or like, I'm going to
that's why
divorce
divorce
you.
is such a tragedy.
Yeah, exactly right. And so, and it's like, in a certain sense, like SSPX forced the hand of Pope Leo, right? Like there's this reality that like he was willing, and then the popes for years have been willing to go to the table, right? To talk to the table, to be able to talk through some of these concerns, to have reform, a healthy place of dialogue. But then there does become a point in a toxic relationship where you have to draw a line and you have to say, unless this behavior changes, this is the consequence. Right? There are plenty of people that I know that are divorced and have had marriages annulled and said that this is dissolved, in a certain sense, like that's kind of what has happened, right? There's a forcing of the hand of like an unwillingness to come to equal sides where, I don't know, I guess where I'm going with this is like, there's a part of which I could, because it's kind of a unique thing where like we just got done with the 4th of July and there's like the celebration of truly what was a revolution, right? Like you think about the 4th of July, and I think almost it could sound, to myself at least, I'm kind of calling this out myself, it could sound like I'm like, being oxymoronical a little bit, like saying one thing, but in one circumstance we don't celebrate revolution, but in another circumstance we do celebrate revolution. And I suppose part of it's because it's at its heart there was like a tyranny that was happening, but truly there was nothing tyrannical about.
We also tried to reform it. We're actually happy to be colonies. It's just please listen to these. It wasn't even a list of demands. It was really just kind of like, hey, we're happy to be colonies. Here's the reality, like on the ground over here. And the king wouldn't even like receive. So you're right. But even in that, the hand was forced eventually.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
exactly right. Yeah, go for it. No.
And that's what I mean. That Father Gregory Pine came out with an amazing video through, is it Godsplaining? Is that his channel?
Yeah, he's amazing.
And he just talks about what constitutes like when you're allowed to be disobedient and when disobedience becomes not disobedient. And one of the things he said is if it's an unjust law that or it goes against nature, right? And you could make some arguments that that's what was happening with the tyranny that was happening between England and those in the colonies. Nothing about this situation. He does a really good job in that video of explaining it. Nothing about this is of what's going on here would define literally unjust laws going against nature. So that's the fact of the situation. And at the same time, I think Sam, you started to say this a little bit. I do think it would be worth just taking some time to actually look at, like, it would be remiss, and Brad and I are in a group text where we talked a lot about this. It would be remiss if we at least didn't steel man what's happening here.
Yeah. Agreed.
And at least look at that and say, okay, now let's actually go at those specific things, right? So
why don't you take a first shot? Like what do you think?
Well, I'll just say
what if you're like, hey, I'm understanding, empathizing. Like here would be the best argument for the people that are really wrestling with what to do in the midst of which side to side with.
Yeah, I'll say 3, and then we can kind of pick apart whichever ones we want to go at. So the first one is the reality in China, right? So in China, there and you guys can correct me a little bit more, but China, the communists, the CCP is ordaining those bishops. So in technicality, they have ordained bishops without specific approval from the Pope, right? That's one of the arguments. Another one of the arguments is that we in the church are in a state of emergency. And in a state of emergency, this kind of reality is allowed. And then the third is just more of a feeling. And this is what I see the most. Like, if there's a video that's going to get destroyed that we create, it's this one. Because I read tons of YouTube comments and they're all just flooded with like, good on you, SSPX. You're doing the right thing. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Be faithful to the church. All these other people are like homosexual, whatever. Like, that's what all the comments are saying. And, but like the general feel is this, and I get it. It seems as though what happened with the church was there were some really clearly defined realities that really kind of were downstream, or I guess kind of came from Trent, the Council of Trent, that now we have this Vatican II council that's very much verbiage never really used in a council before. It's very pastoral. and it's written in a way that it felt very, very different. And things like religious liberty, which is what one of the things that SSPX is kind of saying, things like realities around salvation, like there is a lot of things in Vatican II that feel like they are completely different than Trent. Like that is true. And SSPX would really be a product of Trent, and in the church as a product of Trent, and then to come into a council like Vatican II that's very pastoral and isn't communicating in the same way is super confusing. And then flowing from that, you do see a lot of correction, especially from Francis, on groups that are still bending traditional, but then you have like wild things happening in churches that are completely against what we believe around sexuality, and telling parishioners that birth control is okay. I've been to a church that said that. Like, and it doesn't seem to be corrective on that end. And so they're seeing this and they're saying, okay, this was the Trent Church, and now we have the Vatican II Church, and these are two different churches, and I'm going to follow the one that seems to have been around longer. And so those are the three kind of China, state of emergency, and then the feel of two separate churches between Trent and Vatican II are the three kind of things that I can understand. I don't think they're like complete idiots for doing this, if that makes sense. But those are three. So I just want to throw that out there, and we can take stabs at it or however we want to go about it.
Yep. No, I like that. I think if I was going to continue to build on the steel man, I think your first point is it says something like this. There are other situations like ours that are being treated different than ours. The second would be something like this. There is a real state of ambiguity in the church today, and we are trying to fight for concretized reality. And then the third one would be something like there are discrepancies here that we're not finding resolution on, and we favor the one that preceded the other. And I can see those frustrations. I think
and really quick, sorry, just to be specific too on that second one, like state of emergency doesn't just mean that. It also means like they truly believe that the church is in a state of extraordinary crisis, and that and the church has allowed in the past, when the church is in that place, for things like SSPX to occur. So I just wanted to state that kind of as the intensity of why they're claiming it. But anyways, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's like a war powers clause. It's like we have to do like extraordinary things at extraordinary times. Go ahead, Sam. I have some thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear what you're thinking when it comes to empathizing and steel man.
No, for sure. I mean, I think from my end, it's like, okay, so the things you just shared, Noah, I'm like, yeah, I empathize with that. Like I'm actually somebody I would say is a fairly empathetic person. Like when I hear somebody else's side of a story and I place myself in their situation and think about, like state of emergency. Like I understand it. They were down to 2 bishops. They felt like they needed more. They needed to, and then the stuff with, there's things going over here in the German church. There's stuff happening here. And like, even like when I lived in Minnesota, there was weird stuff going on in some of the churches. And we're going after like the traditional Latin mass people as opposed to telling Nancy Pelosi she can't receive communion, like that type of thing. So it's one of those, to me, it's like, I can empathize for sure. I think that empathy is very, very different from agreement. So I can empathize with something, but I don't have to agree with it. And all these people that are sitting there like, yeah, man, like you do that. Yeah. It's like, great, go be an SSPX. Like, go be excommunicated. Like if you really agree with it that much, or if you want to empathize with that much, then go do it. Leave the church, essentially. To me, I'm just like, I can empathize without agreeing. And I think that's where I'm at, is like, I can understand why they would feel that way. I can even understand why they would take the measures that they would have done it. I don't agree with them though. And so I think to me, it's like, I think you can stand in those two places where you can see where someone's at and the decisions they've made and be like, yeah, totally understand why you would think that. Like, I mean, even just take it outside of this, like you put it in the world's perspective. It's like, I can totally understand why somebody would say, if 2 guys love each other, why can't they get married? Yeah. To some degree, I kind of empathize with that. It's like, I understand and I can like empathize with, if you view the world in this certain way, why wouldn't you? I just don't agree with it, right? Like there's an element at which it's like to be able to understand the human experience through the very unique lens that people have had throughout the story of their life, I think is just like, it's a part of human emotional intelligence. I don't think you have to agree with it though.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a really good word, Sam. What I was wrestling with, Noah, is it's one of those things where I think I can steel man all of those points in the sense of like, okay, because that's similar, shouldn't we be permitted to do that also? Because this is a time of emergency, shouldn't we be permitted to do this? And then also, like, there are real rifts here that we think that we are in the right on. I just think that, again, like, how are we defining authority and like who gets the say on that? So like, because the first one, the reason that the church would give for allowing that in China is because the salvation of souls is at stake. That at the end of the day, the church needs to exist there, and the church like it's a pastoral move to eliminate real persecution of a church. Now, again, that's a pastoral decision. Could it be changed later? Of course it could be. But what the church is saying on the other side is it is not like that in what the SSPX is doing. They're operating largely in America and in some European countries. And don't get me wrong, there's some wacky stuff going on, but there are definitely faithful churches. And so it's not a direct comparison. The next one would be on the emergency side of things. It's like, you're saying it's an emergency because you think that what you guys are doing has to happen to allow the avenues of grace to flow. But the church says, no, it doesn't. Your Novus Ordo parish down the street has the real presence of Jesus Christ and has the grace flowing from it. So it's a false emergency, even if you feel it to be true. And don't get me wrong, I can empathize with that. I do that all the time. Like, there are times in my life where I think about my week and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. This is an emergency. I have to change everything tomorrow. And then I think to myself, I'm like, well, actually, the last time I prayed, I felt pretty comfortable with what I'm doing right now. And it's like, okay, felt emergency, not real emergency. And the reason I know it's not a real emergency is because the authority in my life, namely the Lord. And again, I understand that gets complicated too, because they would say they feel like they're following the Lord. The Lord doesn't speak separate from his church. And again, I know that takes faith and that takes surrender. And we really hate that, especially our individualistic machoism in the West. We're like, we don't need that. It's like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You need to surrender. You have to surrender if you want to be faithful. And faithfulness is one of the primary ways by which to achieve holiness. So you got to surrender. And it's just, what are you going to surrender to? Are you going to surrender to your own intellect? Like, are you going to worship your own intellect? Are you going to worship your own will? Or are you going to see, like, no, at the end of the day, I trust the Lord in his voice. And I know that the Lord's voice comes authoritatively through the church. And to Sam's point, empathizing with all that, I'm not trying to say that I couldn't come out and be like, yeah, I want there to be a lot greater clarity around certain dogmas and certain teachings of Vatican II. I do think that we should really have amazing books and resources on these dynamic interplays between salvation exists only in the church and ecumenism is a really important, like these things, they are mysterious and tricky, but they're not impossible to weave together. The church does it all the time. It's just when we don't hear it in the way that we want to hear it, we're like, actually, last point. I don't like the reality that oftentimes in people's lives, they say they don't understand when they just don't agree. It's not that you don't understand. It's that you don't agree. And you're saying you don't understand because it allows you to maintain the driver's seat and play victim if you need to and stay in control. But it's not actually that you don't understand. You don't agree. So you're pushing for understanding when really what you want is absolute agreement. And that's just where surrender has to happen. I'll leave it with that.
Well, it's just so funny. I think, Brad, you could sum up, I think your last point is the best point of the episode, truthfully. And it's just funny, you going through each one of those kind of rebuttals or rebukes. I think you can sum all of it up with, like, the Pope said so. Like, so that's why China's able to do what they're doing. That's why, like, that's everything. And like, it's when you're a kid and your dad, you're like, why do I have to do this? And your dad's like, because I said so. And there's nothing that pisses off a kid more than that. But I can think of probably 10 to 15 things that my flawed father said that to that I'm really grateful for. So like, what, like, in would explanation have been helpful? Sure. Is it needed? No. And I think I just want to, the last thing I want to just share here is an amazing letter that Fulton Sheen wrote on September 21st of 1978. He said this. So a woman, a mother of 8, wrote him because she was really concerned that her friend was getting really involved with SSPX. And so September 21st, 1978, this was his response. It says this: Dear Barbara, I thank you for your kind letter, and I admire you as the mother of 8 small children. I am sure you are busy but happy. If you have any influence on your friend, I would beg you to influence her to leave the so-called Society of St. Pius X. This group has no ecclesiastical approval, and indeed, it can lead her and possibly her family into schism and even heresy. The Vatican Council approved the updating of the liturgy, and amongst the changes were those recommended for the Mass. The changes made by Pope Paul VI were not doctrinal changes. They merely changed from Latin to the vernacular. There have been many changes in the Mass down through the centuries. The Lord never said Mass in Latin. The Lord never said Mass in Latin. He used the language of the time. Moreover, the change in translation does not alter the meaning of the text. I am always looking for translations that make the scriptures more understandable and clear. Since I never write to anyone unless they have written to me, I shall not write to Mrs. Richardson. I beg you to tell her that she should withdraw from that schismatic sect as soon as possible, or suffer the consequence of possibly finding herself outside the church. And I heard that, I'm like, that's fake. That's legit fake. But it's been confirmed that blessed Fulton Sheen said that. He's about to be canonized, and he said
Mic
that.
drop from him, yeah.
And it's like, okay, well then he must just be this modernist heretic who doesn't get it, or he's right. Yeah. But which one am I willing to side with?
Yeah. Well, and again, if we can just well, actually, we might just need to do a second, but I do I want to encourage you, if you're listening today and you're wrestling with things in the church, good, stay there and wrestle it out. Like, let's continue to wrestle with hard things, but don't take your ball and go home. Like that's the heart of what we're trying to do in the church, and we're excited to be doing it alongside.
Especially because everyone hates that kid.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like you didn't get your way, so you took your nice ball home, and we were just trying to still play with it. Man, I enjoy living life alongside you guys. If you're listening today, let me make just one appeal. If you're listening today and you regularly listen to Modern Man, it would do us a great service if you would subscribe. The reason that is because it allows this message to go further faster, and it allows us to continue to wrestle out these hard truths in public space. These are the conversations that Noah, Sam, and I have all the time. We're just choosing to do it on our laptops, on our microphones, in person when we can. And we'd love for you to be a part of that journey with us. And please, also, if you're inclined to it, join us in the comments. Let us know what episode types you like, what you like about our arguments, what you don't like about it. We'd love to continue the conversation after we're done recording here. So my one encouragement would be to subscribe so we can go further faster. And if you would be so inclined and jump in the comments to give us additional feedback, we'd be blessed by that too. And I really enjoyed the conversation tonight.
Yeah, well, just additionally, like if we get enough comments on this episode telling us what we're missing, then we'll do a rebuttal episode. So we may do it.
Good.
Like I want to hear all the things that we're missing in this. In like, I've seen a ton of
points were weak
videos. Yeah. Tell us what we're missing. Tell us why we're wrong. And we would love to talk more about it. Maybe even bring somebody on to kind of walk through that as well. But please comment, and we'll want to read that, listen to it, and we want to know why we're wrong.
Yeah, great call.
But we're not.
Yeah. But we're not. All right, gents. Until next time.